Welcome into Hardcore Penn State football. We are going international. Penn State takes on Florida International at noon Eastern this Saturday. We'll be previewing the Nittany Lions taking on the Panthers. We'll be discussing the latest in practice notes and a potential switch from Nike to Adidas. All that and more in tonight's episode. Welcome into Hardcore Penn State football. I'm Corey Listoki. With me, as always, the great Sean Kane. How are you doing today, Sean?
Doing good, Corey. Something I was just talking with you about. Worked late tonight. Got right on the pod. Well, had dinner first, but doing pretty good. I like the whole going international angle. Chicken Caesar salads.
Oh, little chicken Caesar. I thought I had like a dog hair in my beard, but no, it's just a gray hair. So that's discovery.
I find gray hairs like I get them in my sideburns and like on the side of my head.
Yeah, I got them bad, obviously.
Yeah, I know you're a little more gray, but you have more hair than I do. So I guess that's the trade-off. I'd rather be grayer than losing hair.
I'll be okay thickness perspective, but I'm not entirely sure. I think so.
Yeah, because I don't have many, but I'm getting some. I'm sure with the baby, I'll be really gray by probably the playoffs.
If he's anything like you, probably so. Welcome in the show, everybody. Obviously, we'll get to previewing Florida International. I'm glad that you liked that a little going international spin on it. A little bit different. The Florida Panthers. Have you seen their statue, their shrine, so to speak, by chance?
FIU has one?
Yeah.
I have not seen it.
Much cooler than ours. Much meaner. It's pretty fantastic. So, anyway, I recommend you check that out at some point. But if it was a battle between their statues, they would win.
But be in trouble, yeah.
Unfortunately for them, it's not a battle of statues. It's a battle of football teams in which Penn State will be looking to go 1-0 for the second time this season. Before we get there, James Franklin and Penn State just wrapped up practice, spoke with the media, and we do have some news coming out of Wednesday practice today. Before I get to that, please, if you haven't already, make sure to like the video and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening to this in podcast form, just double check, make sure you're subscribed because we move some things around. You may have already been subscribed. It's supposed to bring the subscriptions over. A lot of people think they're subscribed, but actually it's just the algorithm recommending it over and over again. Make sure you're subscribed. And while you're there, if you're on Spotify, just drop us a 5-star rating real quick. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, go ahead and write us a little 5-star review. We'll read it on the show. Would really appreciate it. The numbers have been fantastic, just by the way. The support has been fantastic. We've been back at it for less than a month, and it's been fantastic. So we appreciate that tremendously. All right. That being said, let's get into some. There's again. I want to just start by saying Franklin has provided an insane amount of information so far this year, as far as press conferences go, as far as practices go. Been very impressed with the amount of information that we've been given. Today, we found out a couple interesting things. Sean, I'll start off with defensive end Zariah Fisher. Will play on Saturday. He is officially a go. According to James Franklin, they're not sure exactly how many reps he will get, but he will play on Saturday, which he was a kind of a game time decision not to play last week against Nevada. And honestly, you and I had that conversation like, well, okay, then how much do you really want him to play before Oregon? But you want him to get his feet wet a little bit. Well, it sounds like he's going to play a little bit on Saturday.
Yeah, and I think it's important. It was important to have him play as soon as possible. Now, I'm not saying he's got to go play 60. He's got to go have 60 reps. But when you're talking about a guy who hasn't played in over a year, I think it's important to have him at least get some live bullets shot out at him before you play a top, whatever they're going to be, top 5 to 7 team in the country. So I think it's important to have him play. Like I said, not a ton. He's still an experienced guy. He's played a lot of football here. But you still, the body needs to get used to all of that. And he needs to get used to it. So I think it's a big plus that he'll be playing on Saturday.
Yeah, and I think also maybe it will help the younger guys seeing someone else out there besides Dennis-Sutton. I kind of go back to water skiing. My wife is a really good water skier. I can't even watch her because she's so much better than me. It does nothing for me to watch her because I can't do half of the things that she can do. I'm not getting better by watching her. I feel like to a certain extent, like Dennis-Sutton is so good, and some of the things he can do from a physicality standpoint, from a speed standpoint, yeah, that's great, but I'm not going to be able to do that anytime soon. I feel like Zariah Fisher is at least a little bit more relatable in that sense, especially for a true freshman. And so maybe they can pick up on a couple of things, and maybe things are a smidgen slower. Might be helpful for Zariah Fisher and also everyone else involved. And maybe they just won't feel as much pressure. Chaz Coleman told James Franklin after the game, I was a little bit nervous and don't have to be nervous anymore. Maybe it'll also help saying, hey, Jalen Harvey, Chaz Coleman, you guys are going to be a part of this, but you need to just relax. Not everything's on your guys' shoulders, okay? You guys just be yourselves, be young, make mistakes, but play fast. I think that will help. I want to give a shout out to Will Gamble on YouTube. He says Franklin is either losing his filter the older he gets, or he's less defensive because he is more confident in his team this year. Sean, which one do you think it is? Do you think he's just getting old, or do you think he is feeling pretty good about what he's got? You know what I mean? Like when you're in poker and, you got, a pair of aces, you start yapping a little bit more than when you got a pair of twos.
I think it's the latter. I think James Franklin's been at this a long time. He's typically pretty guarded. Although I think Donnie Collins has actually talked to us about this before. He's not as guarded as people think he is because he always gives you little nuggets. You just have to understand Franklinese a little bit. But he's being very, very open about, especially about playing time. Even though he doesn't do a depth chart, and I don't think anybody does a depth chart anymore. He telling us who's the starter, who's the backup, and that's just something that he hadn't really done in the past. And, I think he's just more secure with the guys in his locker room. I think he feels like this is a tight locker room. I don't think he feels like, and it's been like this sometimes in the past, not much in Franklin's era, but sometimes where it feels like the locker room's just about to fall apart. And I don't think it's like that at all. I think these guys are all really bought in from top to bottom. And I think that's why you didn't see a lot of departures in the transfer portal this season because they know they're good. They know what the goal is, and they're all bought into that. And I think that's definitely the plus. That's one of the pluses of being a developmental program and not a program that builds a ton from the transfer portal.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I do think he's definitely a little bit more loosey-goosey out there, loosey-goosey. So, but that's good to see. I think that does, help everybody, and I think it's very helpful for us because we get some more information out of it as well. The second injury news: defensive back Zion Tracy will also be a go on Saturday. I don't know if anyone specifically asked about Zion Tracy on the Monday presser. But he will be also playing, which I think Zion Tracy, I think I said this in the season preview show. I think Zion Tracy, I don't think I articulated it as well as you did, but I like what you said. Like he's going to be an X factor potentially for Penn State. In fact, I would argue Penn State's defense needs him to be an X factor. And I think they are, whether you thought, they're a B defense or a B plus defense or an A minus defense, I think they're like a half letter grade better with him. If you think they're a B plus, I think they're an A minus or an A. I think if you think they're a B minus, I think they're a B plus. If you think they're an A minus, I think they're an A plus with him on the field. He's explosive and he's a massive competitor. I mean, I always go back to the stories of him when he came in the summer for summer camp and didn't even have a scholarship, and literally won a scholarship by beating up on some of the other PSU wide receiver commits. And so having a guy like that, not just on your side of the field to make plays, I think all the other players around him play better because they know the expectations higher of him on the field. So getting him back, I think he's a lead by example guy. And I think I feel better about what this defense is going to do on Saturday, especially considering I don't think the secondary, I know they had some fumble recoveries, but I think there was some opportunity for improvement with the secondary, and getting Zion Tracy back definitely should help that.
Yeah, and he just has a knack for making things happen, right? And look, he ain't perfect. That's part of why there were times last season, especially when it came to tackling, that he struggled a bit. But I think that when you look for a guy that could find the ball, and that could change the course of a game, I mean, I think of him. He played really well at USC last season. He had that pick six against Ohio State. I think he likes to play. I think he tends to play better on a bigger stage, and those are the types of guys you love to have, right? Guys that aren't afraid of the moment, even when they're not ready. Even when they're not like ready to be stars or superstars, they just love that moment because when the light fully comes on for them, it's going to be really fun to watch.
Absolutely. Since we're talking about the secondary, I'm going to skip to this note. Franklin was speaking about Antoine Belgrave Shorter. Specifically mentioned that he had some improvement that needs to happen from a communication perspective. We had spoke a little bit about him on the Monday episode, that I didn't think he necessarily shut the door on Daewon Lane or anyone else potentially competing for that spot. I think Franklin's comment tells me two things. One, ABS is still the starter, but two, he wouldn't have said anything unless he specifically wants to push him. And it tells me also that ABS is a guy that you can push. And so I think that says a little bit more about how coachable he is. It makes me honestly feel better about him as a player. But they do need to figure out that other safety spot. I can tell you right now, if Dan Lanning thinks there's a potential weakness, especially a communication breakdown weakness in the secondary, they're going to go after it. So that spot I was already paying attention to last week. I'm going to continue to pay attention to very closely against an FIU team that has a very capable passer.
Yeah, and what's the one game where secondary really struggled last season? Oregon,
Very much Oregon.
Yeah, and we don't have Jalen Reed this year, and Penn State still did not play well against Dylan Gabriel. Now, good thing is they don't have Dylan Gabriel this year. They have a new quarterback, and we're in Happy Valley. But general rules still apply. That they could. They're a team. They have a creative offensive coordinator. And really, would you rather try to run on Zane Durant to Dennis-Sutton, or would you rather just quick passes, try to get? I think you have to kind of pick your poison with a team like Penn State. Would you rather go across the middle where we might be a little bit softer with our safeties? Probably what I try to do. Yeah. So I think that's and the good thing about having a team like FIU, who has a decent quarterback. From what I've seen. And they look to be a competent Conference USA team. I think you could get some work for, they're not going to be as good as Oregon, obviously, but you could get some simulations as to what some of the stuff that you might be facing with them.
Yeah. Keyone Jenkins was the preseason pick as far as offensive players go in the Central USA. Sort of has a completion percentage right around 60% his entire career. He actually literally threw 60% completion in their first game against Bethune-Cookman, which, by the way, Bethune-Cookman, my high school coach, played football there. So Shout out to them.
Little connection.
But he's basically been 60% his entire career. 2023, 2,400 yards, 58%. 2024, 2,500 yards, 61.8%. So you know what you're getting with Jenkins. He can sling the rock. Threw 22 touchdowns last year, 8 picks. So he's going to do some good things, over 300 pass attempts. But I think there's opportunity for Zion Tracy, for AJ Harris, for ABS, for Zakee Wheatley, and some of the young guys, Jameer Joseph, Elliott Washington, and also Davian Collins, should mention too, since he started technically. I think there's going to be opportunity for them to get some interceptions, just because that completion percentage isn't very high. So I'll be paying attention to the secondary. The other thing too is yeah, they may want to pass the ball, but depending on what side of the bed Dennis-Sutton wakes up on, they may not have the time to throw it downfield regardless. And so it might be more, dinking and dunking, which we've kind of expected for most teams, especially inferior teams, because they literally just can't block anyone long enough to do any more progressive route trees or long developing routes.
Yeah, I think you could see a little bit of what we saw with Nevada. Their quarterback is a more mobile quarterback like Purdy. So I think you could see a little bit more of that, trying to move the pocket, try to get away from Dennis-Sutton, try to move the pocket away from him, and take your chances with Sariah Fisher or one of the young guys on the other side. So I'm kind of thinking that's what they're going to try to do and get away from Zane Durant. I noticed Zane Durant and Denai were lined up on the same side a lot on Saturday. I think that's something Jim Knowles likes. You don't know how he's going to do that, like if he wants to put them on the same side or opposite. So I think they're going to try to get away from them, which is, I don't know, Corey, I think I know a little bit about football. It's probably a smart thing to do, is to get away from those two if you're an inferior opponent.
Best you can, absolutely.
Yeah, so I think you're going to see some moving in the pocket. And I think as a result of that, you could see these young defensive ends and maybe even the linebackers get tested a little bit. Maybe Dom DeLuca, who we both said didn't play so well on Saturday, maybe he gets a little shot at redemption.
I like that. Shout out to Elise on YouTube for joining in. Appreciate you being here. I wanted to now mention, we mentioned a little bit about this on Monday's show. Punter Gabe Nwosu was asked about it again. He is a starting punter, and specifically someone wanted him to sort of follow up on what he said on Monday about long distance field goals, and Franklin sort of doubled down on it and said, hey, we could potentially use him for a long distance field goal. I think Audrey Snyder reminded me of, if it's 45 and out, we use Jordan Stout. If it's 45 and in, we go with Pin Nagur. There may be something like that, because Ryan Barker is great. I'm trying to remember his longest field goal. I want to say it was maybe USC, and maybe it was 40-something yarders, but he really doesn't kick that many long field goals, and the accuracy definitely does drop when you get, say, above 40 yards. Very, very good, very precise under 40.
He's super reliable.
You could argue he's super reliable. But it would be interesting to see if they get themselves in a 55-yard plus situation, a 52-yarder field goal opportunity. Do they go with Gabe Nwosu over Ryan Barker? Where is that threshold from where you decide, okay, Ryan Barker, your accuracy kind of falls off plus 45. Gabe Nwosu will let you try it from 55, and maybe you could hit it from 60, but we'd rather just go for it. Down and distance is going to play a large role in that. But either way, we're just talking about James Franklin on these press conferences being way more open. James Franklin's also been very confident. To even compare him to Jordan Stout, who has established himself in the NFL and was a massive weapon for Penn State, that's a huge compliment to Gabe Nwosu. And, oh, by the way, we've always talked about him, but if he does start doing punts and he does have a field goal, like national media is going to gravitate to this guy. I think there was a little bit when he was a kickoff specialist, but it's going to turn into like Joey Julius very quickly just because of his stature and size.
Yeah, I mean, the guy looks like a defensive end, and he's out there kicking field goals now, potentially. Yeah, and as far as the distance that we'd use him versus Barker, I think the team obviously knows that. Franklin and Lustig know that because they track all this stuff. You know, this is one thing that they're very by the book analytics about. It's part of why Sanders Sahadak won the kicking job 2 straight years, because I believe he won it in practice, but then when he got to the game, not so much. So there's some things you can't really see until it's game time. But I do think that's kind of the plan, especially if they don't feel super confident about what Barker could do outside of 40 or 45 or 50. I don't know. Like, I kind of think Barker could probably handle 45, right? 45 to 50. But then I think anything outside of that, you're probably going to see Gabe come in. And even then, I think it's going to be more rare because Franklin tends to like to go for it as long as it's 4th and 5 or shorter from that 50-yard range. And I kind of think that's the way to go in college, just because mostly no college kickers are that great. And you have to weigh do I have more of a chance of picking this first down up, or does my kicker have more of a chance of kicking this field goal? And it's not like the NFL where everybody could kick from 50.
Yeah, and then even if you miss it, they have great field position anyway. So at that point, it really turns into more of like, should I punt it or should I go for it, rather than a 10% chance of making a field goal. You might have a better chance of scoring points by punting and getting the ball back and trying to get points rather than kicking a 10, 15% chance field goal. So anyway, Franklin also reiterated multiple times about the fact that they didn't punt. I just want to reiterate one more time that they had a 4th down on that last true drive, and they decided to go for it. And then Nevada scored a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. So, okay, James, you didn't punt. You could have punted, and you probably could have prevented them from scoring 8 more points. Just saying. Like, I get it. It's cool to say you didn't punt in the game. You could have on a 4th and 4, 4th and 3, and you elected not to.
What did it cost you? Everything. Well, 8 points, but
Yeah. And I know they don't punt in those situations because it's more insult to injury. But anyway, the only other practice notes I wanted to mention: Ethan Grunkmeyer again running with the 1s and 2s. Jackson Smolik running with a scout team. Franklin had said that Ethan Grunkmeyer had won the job for that week. I don't think anybody specifically asked him, but I think it's pretty well assumed based off how well Grunkmeyer played and the fact that he's with the 1s and 2s that Grunkmeyer is still your backup quarterback. So anyway, if anyone was holding their breath on that, Ethan Grunkmeyer is still your backup QB.
It's going to happen to win the job every week.
Yeah, you're going to have to go
every
win the job.
Every single week, you want it again.
You think Tom Brady just had the job handed to him? Like, no, he had to go earn it every single week. The last thing I wanted to mention is running back. Quentin Martin was back at practice, so that's good to see. Franklin had mentioned on Monday that there was a little bit of a tweak there. They're trying to get him back, but he was also running the scout team. So I would expect Cam Wallace and Corey Smith to kind of get this, the share of things potentially in the 3rd and 4th quarter as well. And we'll go from there with that. So those are some of the updates I had. Sean, did I miss anything, or is there anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I think we covered that pretty well.
I think so too. If you're good, are you good?
I'm good.
Perfect. So let's transition a little bit now into FIU. And then I don't want to talk about the Adidas, Nike stuff until the end. I just feel like as important as people make that seem, it's not as important as actual football. So we'll touch base on that towards the end of the show. Please, if you're watching live on YouTube, I would be very curious, and since we're talking about FIU now, would love to hear your bold predictions. Would love to know what your score predictions are. We'll get to ours very shortly, and we'll also go through our pick'em. The pick'em description, or the link to the pick'em, is in the description. It's also in the podcast description if you're listening via podcast. Make sure to get your picks in. We had a record. I want to say we had 66 people do the pick'em for week 1, which is fantastic. I think that's a new record. Right now, we're sitting at half of that. So
this happens all the time.
Don't get pissed off at me when you forget to do week 2 and week 3, and then you're coming back saying, "Can I earn points?" It's like I feel like a teacher when when kids come to them at the end of the school year, like, "Can I get extra credit?" Like, no, you don't get extra credit. Which maybe we might throw some extra credit out this year if you happen to give us a 5-star review or something like that. Maybe
didn't you have a catch-up system last year?
The catch-up system is supposed to be the double down.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
the double down is not a guarantee, and you get 2 points for it. So if you hit your double downs consistently, you'll catch up pretty quickly. But you gotta, But maybe we could do something extra. With a little, you drop us a 5-star review, you scratch our back. Maybe we could find a point somewhere here and there. Maybe it's like Michigan 2005. Maybe we could find a couple seconds to put back on the clock.
Yeah, a couple points will fall off the back of a truck or something. If you help me out, I'll help you out.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. So make sure to get those in there. Florida International, they're the Panthers. I can't tell you how many hardcore fans know very little about FIU. Period. Like, they didn't even know.
I have a fun fact if you want.
I love fun facts. Let's hear it.
Do you know last time we played FIU was also the first time Penn State won 59-0? Do you know which game was going on right at that same time against mid-major?
Yes.
Because I would be very impressed if you know this.
Because I believe it was 2007, and I believe it was App State in Michigan.
You are correct. We have some real ball knowers here.
I really honestly that was the
good.
only. I knew it was 2007 because I did a little bit of my research, and I'm pretty sure App State Michigan was going on at the same time.
I was at a sports bar with my father, and because Big Ten Network, that was first day Big Ten Network was released too, and no providers had Big Ten Network, so we had to go to a sports bar and watch the Penn State game. And in the background, I was keeping an eye on Michigan App State, and I was like, "Wow, that's really close." And then, sure enough, Penn State, we beat them pretty bad. I think it was 59-0. So by the third quarter, I was just watching the Michigan App State game, and then we all saw the upset. So, yeah, FIU always reminds me of that game.
I was just looking at the Conference USA standings. I'm just their conference is just such an interesting conference at this point. Let me just rattle off these teams to you now, and maybe just be impressed with me, because they got Western Kentucky there now. They have Delaware. Good old the Hens.
Delaware?
Yes, Delaware is now in the CUSA.
I did not know they made the jump.
Yeah, so there you go. The who was the linebacker? Troy Reeder, the Fighting Troy Reeders.
Yes.
Liberty, Louisiana Tech, New Mexico State, whom I'm pretty sure for a little bit was in the Mountain West.
I think you're correct.
Jacksonville State, which for those that aren't familiar with the South, that is not outside of Jacksonville, Florida. That is Jacksonville, Alabama, for those that aren't aware. Good football team, actually. Kennesaw State, which is in Georgia. Middle Tennessee, which I thought was in the Sun Belt for a little bit. Missouri State, who played USC and I believe plays maybe Minnesota this week. If you did the pick'em, you would know. I forget who it is. I don't remember off the top of my head. Do you remember?
I don't.
I'm pretty sure they play another Big Ten team this week. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they don't. But I could have swore Kennesaw State plays Indiana.
Missouri State plays SMU in a couple weeks.
Oh, okay. Not what I was thinking. Middle Tennessee plays Wisconsin. So we actually have forget about the SEC Big Ten crossover. We've got the Big Ten CUSA crossover going on right now. Anyway, UTEP is in there, and then finally Sam Houston, who also made the jump not too long ago. If not, I don't think it was this year. I want to say it was last year, but maybe I'm wrong. So anyway,
longest member of Conference USA is, because it feels like all these mid-majors have been in Conference USA at least once.
I would say maybe I was wrong. Middle Tennessee State, maybe they've been there, but
Louisiana Tech, I would want to say they've been there a long time too. Whoops.
Sean's breaking things over there.
Yes,
I would say Louisiana Tech. Sean, why don't you mute yourself for a second? I would say Louisiana Tech, Liberty, Western Kentucky, and maybe Middle Tennessee would be my guess as far as the members that have been there the longest. But I honestly don't remember exactly. Somebody wants to look that up. I'd be very curious. You're still muted, by the way. Oh, you're still getting back together. Okay. So anyway, Florida International. They played Bethune-Cookman, as I had mentioned. We mentioned that they like to throw the football, but against BC, they ran the ball. 6 rushing touchdowns in their 42-9 win. 2 of them came from the quarterback Jenkins. So maybe they'll at least be able to run the rock a little bit. I don't know how much they're going to be able to run the rock against Penn State, but it seems like they're trying to commit at least a little bit more potentially to the run game.
Yes, we are going for the main goal of the season this year, which is to beat Bethune-Cookman in the transitive property. So we're trying to do. Yes, that is a big goal of ours. But yeah, I think again, you kind of saw with Nevada. I think Nevada had the type of team that I could see running the ball well, just because Purdy is such a gamer, especially with his legs. It's just they were unable to do so against Penn State. I kind of think it's going to be a similar story with FIU. I think the Conference USA, they're probably going to be a team that could run the ball pretty good. I just think it's going to be just with history and knowing the team's, the talent gap. I think it's going to be it's going to be tough sledding for them a little bit if they think that they could just come out and run the ball. That's why, again, I think you're going to see them try to move the pocket, maybe try to move not horizontally, because that won't really work either. But you're going to see them try some misdirection and RPO stuff.
Yeah, and again, they ended up being really balanced. They ended up with 223 yards rushing and 233 yards passing. They just happened to get a lot of the touchdowns on the ground and none through the air. I would expect that to somewhat change. They had some explosivity as well, though. They had runs of 16, 35, 26, 20. They had passes of 34, 26, 30, 18. So they had a couple big chunks of plays that I think maybe some people wouldn't necessarily expect, but they're going out there and they're slinging the rock around and they're breaking off some good runs as well. So I think this offense is going to be yet again another decent test for this defense. Again, not really a concern, but an offense that this defense is going to have to prepare for, and I don't think is necessarily going to be an offense that's just going to lay down and let you smoke them.
Yeah, and really, the one thing that I really liked about what Penn State did last week was there weren't a ton of miscommunications, and I think this is going to be another week where you, especially for first year defensive coordinator here, first year with scheme, I more apt to say, and I think it's going to be another test with that, right? I think they're going to try to, again, when you're trying to beat a team like Penn State or just hang in there with Penn State. You're going to try some misdirection. And, we just got to stay sound. And I think that's going to be a test, especially for a lot of the younger guys. And we have a lot of them, especially along the defensive line and even in the secondary, to just kind of trust what they've seen in film and stick with the defense. I think the only time I could really think of a blown coverage last week was on the touchdown from Nevada, where there was a guy just flying wide open. So that's the type of stuff that you're going to want to see not happen this week, because it's what FIU's banking on in order to stay in this game.
I was just looking at the weather. Right now, it looks like a 70% chance of rain, which I'm always curious. I think sometimes the rain actually affects the defense more than the offense. Like, yes, there's a wet ball, but it's hard to react in those situations. And so I also think that could be a good test for this defense, having to play in a condition like that. But that's also a couple of days away still. But right now, high of 71, low of 48, with a 70% chance of rain as we kick things off at noon on the Big Ten Network. Defensively,
are we going to get Matt Millen?
Oh, God. Is he still on there? I don't know.
I don't know. I haven't seen that he's retiring, so
I'm assuming they're waiting. I'm assuming they're waiting for the Maryland game, because that would make the most sense. I don't know who the commentator.
Yeah, I don't know who's on the call, so it wouldn't shock me though. We got him a couple times a year, it seems like.
Anyway, the defense held Cookman, BC, Bethune to 3.5 yards per carry on the ground. They did end up giving up 105 yards on the ground, but that's literally because BC ran it 30 times in that game. On offenses, by the way, they ended up with 6.25 yards per play, so not too shabby there either. Third down percentage, they held BC to 33%, and they were right around 60%. So good numbers there as well. So all in all, I think that's good. And I know this is early, and Sean, you always get mad at me because I look at stats too early in the season for it to matter. But just throwing it out there right now, they were able to hold Cookman in the red zone 5 attempts, 3 field goals. 2, they got nothing. So take that for what you will. But one thing that Penn State struggled on was converting in the red zone. Could potentially have a challenge with FIU to maybe get over that hump. So watch, they're going to probably be 5 for 5 with 5 touchdowns now. But just throwing it out there, the stats say it could be a challenge.
They are on pace to be the best red zone defense of all time.
No, because I'm pretty sure Ohio State, again, looks like they're going to be really good in red zone.
Oh, yeah, they probably are, yeah.
Ohio State's like literally right around like 40 to 50% when it comes to touchdown percentage in the red zone, which is just insane. But you're right. Right now, FIU is literally at 0% touchdowns allowed in the red zone with 5 attempts, which is very impressive.
Can't do better than that. No, but I get what you're saying. Like in a vacuum, obviously you can't, it's hard to extrapolate, what it's going to mean for the rest of the year, especially when you get a big jump up from Bethune-Cookman to Penn State. But nonetheless, Penn State, that was one thing we struggled with last week for a variety of different reasons. I don't think any of them were red flag worthy. It was really just us shooting ourselves and finding different ways to shoot ourselves in the foot, getting behind the sticks. And, I heard somebody talking about the Patriots from back in the day. And longtime listeners know I hate the Patriots with everything in me. But they said one of the things that made their offense really work was avoiding negative plays. And I think that's, if you're looking for something to hang your hat on, if you're Penn State this week, what do you look for when you're playing against a team like FIU? Try to avoid negative plays. just keep on schedule and avoid these 2nd and 12s because this guy blew a blocking assignment, or we ran a screen past somebody, a wide receiver screen, somebody didn't block in the flat, like stuff like that. I want to see us avoid this week because, again, if you're FIU, that's one of the things you want to. That's one of your chances against Penn State. If you have us in 3rd and 13 the whole game, even if it's Penn State or Ohio State or Texas or whoever, especially Texas, getting 3rd and 13, that ain't easy, even against a team like FIU where there's that talent gap. So staying on schedule is something I really want to see from this team this week.
Yeah, that's a great point because they didn't really do that against Nevada. FIU and Penn State right now are tied for tackles for loss allowed. Both allowed 6 in their first game, which is tied for 79th, which is not where you want to be in that side of things. Again, very early, but look at the teams that did well in week 1. Ohio State, they allowed 1 TFL against Texas. Texas, even though they lost, allowed 1 TFL against Ohio State, which I think is very impressive. Auburn, who looked very good against Baylor, allowed 1 TFL against Baylor. So you want to be up there. Obviously, it's early as far as the rankings go and stats go, but you don't want to be at 79th in the country in tackles for loss allowed. I can all but promise you that.
Yeah, that's up the creek with that paddle. And look, I am the king of don't worry, this offensive line will be fine. And I truly believe it's going to be fine. It's just they're using so many different combinations and a lot of new parts. But you want to see that start getting settled this week. It's one thing in week 1 because you're using so many different guys. And I also think about the Rucci-Donko dynamic over on the right side because they never played in a game before with each other. Well, now they have. And now you've gone through film session. You've seen what you did well, what you didn't do so well. So that's one thing that I'm really looking to. I'm hoping to see them get past this week, and I'm pretty confident they will.
I agree with that. I definitely want to see them. I mentioned this. I think I was just on Zako's Locked On Nittany Lions podcast yesterday. I think that came out today.
I saw you did well.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
I will record that and hang that on my fridge. I'm wondering if we'll see them try to let those guys gel a little bit more because they went immediately to like 6 offensive line personnel within the first 2 drives. Like maybe we see them play a little bit more traditional in the sense of things. Like they could have been more explosive and been more prolific if they wanted to be, but it seems like they were trying different things and working out those kinks early and often. I'd be curious if that's still the plan against FIU. Do they wait till they get a little bit more of a lead first? Maybe they don't care about any of us and they just are going to work on their things. I think Sean Fitz summed it up best. Like it felt a little bit like a scrimmage, the way it kind of was playing out. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, they were taking it seriously, but they're also trying a lot of different things at the same time. The last thing I just want to mention about FIU, because I'm not going to pretend to beat that horse to death. Franklin mentioned that he expects maybe FIU to play a very similar defense to what Nevada did. Maybe we see some more of that 5-man front look. Maybe we just see more of the bend but don't break. But I guess my argument back to Franklin would be, shouldn't you be like used to this by now? Like this is the exact way teams have played Penn State literally for 3 years. Like nothing has changed. Our receivers have stunk. Our running backs have been the strength. People have played us this way for literally 3 years. Like we should be.
And last year, you just worry about Tyler Warren. That was the only curveball.
Yeah.
Was stop the run and worry about Tyler Warren, and then you're good. And I agree with you. I think that's something that we should be used to at this point. But we always talked about if we had competent receivers, teams wouldn't be able to do that against us. And then what would happen? And hopefully, I guess that's another thing I want to see this week is could these receivers string a couple of games together? I'm aware of the talent deficiency. I get it. But I would like to see these guys continue to play with confidence like they clearly are right now going into week 3 and then beyond in a Big Ten play. I would also like to see Devontae Ross get more involved. I know he only had 1 catch last week. I think they might make it a point to try to get him the ball more. I know he's dealing with some kind of upper body injury, and he was during camp as well. But I would like to see him maybe get a little bit more involved in the passing game.
I agree with that. I'd be very curious to see kind of how that all plays out. Let's move into our pick'em, and we'll get to our bold predictions and our score predictions, and then we'll talk a little bit about Adidas and Nike to wrap this up after that. If you have bold predictions or if you have score predictions, now's the time to get them in the chat. We'll read some of them off in the show. If you're watching live, appreciate you being here. Make sure you've already liked the video and make sure you're subscribed on the YouTube channel. If you're listening, please, again, make sure you're subscribed wherever you may be listening. Sean, Big Ten Pick'em Week 2. I was not able to get a guest today. It was kind of my fault. Honestly, Labor Day just snuck up on me a little bit. I don't know why, but it was yesterday. And sorry, I really had to itch my eyeball. I was just thinking about it. And I was like, wow, we have to have a guest like tomorrow. So I just was a little bit behind the 8 ball there. So you just have us tonight. Anyway, let's get into the picks. We can just run through these. I don't think we need to spend a whole bunch of time on a lot of these. Let's go. Western Illinois versus Northwestern. I assume we think Northwestern's going to rebound from their loss to Tulane.
Yes, give me the Wildcats of Northwestern.
Maryland, Northern Illinois.
I'm very tempted to take Northern Illinois because
I think right now it still says Buffalo, by the way, but whatever.
What's the line? Out of curiosity, I could even.
The line was 17.5, I believe.
I think I'd take Northern Illinois on the line, but I'm going to take Maryland because
I actually already put money on the Northern Illinois line.
Yes. Who are they? The Wolfpack, I think?
Huskies.
That's what they are. Yep.
Huskies. We'll come back to the Penn State FIU pick. I think you're going to take Penn State to win, though. Illinois versus Duke. This line has been right around 3 in favor of Illinois on the road at the Fighting Manny Diaz's.
Take Illinois in the points. Love Manny. I think Duke has been. I think they were better than people expected last year. I think they're going to make a bowl game this year. I just kind of think Illinois is one of the most underrated teams in the country.
Yeah, I'm going to take Illinois too, and I also am betting on Illinois covering that. Yeah. I think it got down to 2. I think I might have got it 2.5, which I feel like is very generous.
Yeah, I could see a world where we play them in Indy. Like I think they're that good.
Whoa.
They don't play. It's not a very tough schedule. They get almost everybody back from last year. I'm very high on Illinois.
Or you might just be high in general.
I might be. I did have a beer during this pod, so maybe that's the beer talk.
Oh, no Diet Dr. Pepper tonight.
Yeah, I had a land shark.
Oh, did you load it? Do you know what a loaded land shark is?
Loaded land sharks are one of my favorite drinks.
I love it.
Yes.
I used to.
Unfortunately, I did not load it.
We used to go to trivia at Pickles, and they'd give you like the pounders, land sharks. And one time I drank it, whatever amount, and I literally reached over the bar and asked if they could pour it back up with Bacardi. And they did. She literally poured it into the can, not even into a cup.
Yeah,
fantastic.
I was at Jimmy Buffett, one of his bars in Atlantic City, and they have like the peach lime. I think it's tequila, and very, very good. It tastes awesome. And also, if you drink 3 of them, you are insanely intoxicated. But it's a fun time.
Speaking of intoxicated, Iowa versus Iowa State. I'll go first in this one. I think Iowa State's going to win, but in this game, I always think to pick whoever you think is going to lose because they always find a way to win. And this goes back and forth between these two. I'm going to take Iowa to win this football game.
I'm taking Iowa too. But
that makes me feel
again, that's one of the hardest games to pick every year.
We're all in Minnesota over Northwestern State, which I just want to say PJ Fleck said something about their pass offense might be one of their best pass offenses they've ever had. I did not I watched a little bit of their game against Buffalo. I don't really know if he's trying to offend all of their previous pass offenses, but I didn't think it was that special. But anyway, if you want to watch New Look Minnesota, there's that game for you. Grambling versus Ohio State, going to be a little bit different competition for the Buckeyes this weekend.
The marching band competition, though, is the one to watch because Grambling has an excellent marching band, and so does Ohio State, sad to say. Taking Ohio State on the football field, band competition, I might take Grambling, though.
I love that. Good pull there, Sean. Oklahoma State, Mike Gundy complaining about NIL ahead of this game, and Dan Lanning firing back, basically comparing Oklahoma State to Montana State and saying you still got to play the game. So I assume it's a huge spread there. I think it's like 28.5 points. Oregon wins.
Yeah, I'm taking Oregon, taking the Ducks.
Miami goes to Rutgers. Unfortunately, it's Miami of Ohio, and they're going to probably win that game. Rutgers, close win over Ohio in week 1.
Yep, taking State University, New Jersey.
Fellow FIU CUSA conference member, Middle Tennessee, going up to Camp Randall to take on the Badgers. Wisconsin wins that game. Michigan on the road at Oklahoma. I want to say they're a 4-point favorite. Underwood looked pretty good in his first game. Gonna be honest, like he's got a cannon. Oklahoma, I want to call their quarterback Toe Mater from Cars, but I think it's Mateer technically. But that is going to be a very interesting game. I want to say it's almost a gotta-win game for Oklahoma, but I just don't know if they're going to win. And I just feel like Michigan is better equipped to go on the road to win this game. I'm going to take Michigan to win.
Taking Michigan too. I don't feel awesome about it because I don't fully trust Michigan because I know Underwood looked good last week, but New Mexico was also in the game in the fourth quarter. So it's not like it was all sunshine and rainbows last week. Like I said, still don't fully trust them, but I'm going to take them to go to Norman and get a win because I'm kind of out on Brent Venables a little bit. Yeah, I just don't think he's a head coach. I think he's a great defensive coordinator, just not a great head coach.
We're all in
Nebraska. Too strange to be a good head coach. Okay. Just a weird guy.
Nebraska to beat Akron. USC to beat Georgia Southern. Boston College versus Michigan State. Michigan State was able to win last week, but did not cover against, I want to say it was one of the directional Michigans.
Yeah, this is a big game for Michigan State, I think. I think this could be the difference between your season kind of going into a bit of a tailspin and maybe getting 8-win season, which I think would be big for Jonathan Smith and Spartans. I'm gonna take Sparty, but I don't feel awesome about it.
Okay, we're all on Purdue to beat Southern Illinois and for Washington to beat UC Davis. UCLA versus UNLV. I'm going to go first and just say I'm taking UNLV to win. UNLV, well, let me just say this. UCLA broke my heart and got absolutely boat raced against Utah.
That seems very personal. That's a very personal pick.
They got ran over. Like, it was ugly. And I can't remember the UNLV coach's name. It's Dan
Mullen.
It's Dan what?
Dan Mullen.
Yeah, it's Dan Mullen. Who was the guy before that? He just left. I forget. Is he the new Purdue coach? I think it is.
Yeah, I think so. I know they had a really fun team, like really fun offense.
Barry Odom.
His name is. Yeah, Barry Odom.
So Barry Odom's at Purdue, but he had a good team at UNLV. Like, the cupboard was not empty when Mullen got there. I think Mullen, good offensive mind, finds a way to win. And also, screw you, UCLA. Make me look like a jackass. I'm done with you for the rest of the year already.
That was a tough scene for you. I felt for you that night, even though I picked Utah. I thought I'm going to take UCLA. They better win. Like this, as much of a must win in week 2 that there is. Like I think you got to find a way to beat UNLV, especially just after getting annihilated against Utah.
Looks like I may have been wrong here. Oh no! So the spread is already for the Michigan game started at 2.5. Now it's at 4. It looks like.
That's moving in Michigan's direction.
I may have did that wrong in the pick'em. I might have to check that spread one more time. I may have. I'll have to see if people who chose it. No, I was right. Oklahoma was favored.
Really?
I'm seeing here. I'm seeing here. Money line, Oklahoma minus 196, Michigan plus 162, Oklahoma 5.5. Minus 5.5 is where it started.
I take Michigan money line.
Anyway, so
maybe it's my Big Ten bias showing though.
Let me just double check one more spot here. Yeah, ESPN has Oklahoma favored, and they still have. You can bet on this right now. You can still bet ESPN Sportsbook 5.5 in favor of Oklahoma. So that being said, that is my double down. I'm going to take Michigan to cover.
Yep, I think Michigan covers too.
All right, Sean, I will go first because I think you went first last time with the bold prediction, and then I ended up basically copying you. So I will start this time. My bold prediction is very simple. I had my season bold prediction for Drew Allar to break the passing touchdown record of 32. It's 29, but I think I said he's going to throw 32. He needs to do a lot more if that's going to be the case. And so I'm going to have Drew Allar throwing 4 touchdown passes this weekend as my bold prediction.
I am also going to – oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Drop like it's
I'm also going through the air. I think we see Kyron Hudson snag 2 touchdowns this week.
Gotcha. 2 TDs. My score prediction, I actually was pretty close last week with 49-7. Is that what I had last week? I want to say that's what I had.
That sounds about right, yeah.
Yeah. I like that so much, I'm going to go with it again. 49-7. Penn State beats FIU.
And I pick a very similar score to you, except in FIU's direction. No, I'm taking Penn State. I think get it done. 52-6. I think it looks a little bit cleaner, especially along the offensive line.
Easy as that. Before we get out of here, we promised we would talk about this. Did not want to start the show with this. Penn State reported, I think, first by, I don't even know who it was. I think
it was on 3.
McMurphy, now technically on 3. Reported that Penn State was considering a deal to switch from Nike to Adidas, and it was pending a board of trustees vote. I had heard, fans with sources, I have heard from folks that I reasonably trust that number is approximately $30 million a year, a 10-year deal, $300 million. Makes me feel pretty good considering that Tennessee got a 10-year deal worth $20 million each. So it's right around that ballpark. Before we go down the is it good, is it bad part of this, I want to just throw out there, I believe the current Nike contract is approximately $2 to $3 million a year. So before we start, getting on our high horses about what is right and what is wrong with leaving Nike for Adidas, from an NIL perspective, it is an insane increase in money. Penn State obviously has a new stadium they need to pay for as well. And so there's a lot of different things. I mean, that's a very lucrative money. That's rivaling like TV money now. So anyway, that's what I've heard. Penn State came out with a comment saying that they were, in the process of negotiating or looking at other opportunities. Maybe that's their way of kind of saying, "Hey, Nike, your call." We'll see, but I would be very surprised at this point if the deal isn't basically done and Adidas moves forward, and getting the contract starting in 2026. So that's what I've heard. That's what we know. I'd be very surprised if Nike, responds. And I don't think Adidas is done, by the way. I guess I'll just say that. Like they got South Carolina, I think, for $5 million a year. They went and got Tennessee for approximately $20 million a year. I think Matt Brown at one point was talking about this, that they might even go after Ohio State. And so they're making a huge push for this. I think a lot of teams, or at least Nike, has taken advantage of a lot of teams for a while, or taken for granted, what they've been able to do. And Adidas is coming in hot. So that being said, Sean, I know where you stand, but please share with where you're at with all of this and what you think.
Yeah, I mean, from a money perspective, you really can't beat it, right? And from those teams, like I think Tennessee's is official now that they're going to go to Adidas. Like Penn State would be the biggest Adidas brand. Notre Dame forever was Adidas, then they went to Under Armour about 10 years ago. So Penn State would be their premier brand, at least for now. I think you also have to factor in who runs Nike, Phil Knight, right? And I think Phil Knight has these connections to Oregon. So I think there's a little bit, especially in this era, where money is so important, especially NIL money. You're like, well, we're kind of funding their program in a way, Oregon's program, and we are now conference rivals with Oregon. So I wonder how much that factors in. And like you said, Corey, if the money is really that drastic, if the difference is that drastic, I'm surprised we didn't do this earlier. I don't know if something like this was on the table earlier. These contracts come probably like every 10 years or so. So I think the amount of money, with how much more money has come into college football, has gone up dramatically. So I'm sure we're going to be due for an increase from Nike. But, this dramatic, if it is that $30 million per year mark, I mean, that's a big asking price for Nike right now. And to see if they could at least match it, because I would like to see them match it.
Yeah. The last little tidbit of information that makes this seem a lot more real for me is, Penn State athletic director Pat Kraft, was at Temple. They are associated with Under Armour, so he doesn't have any sort of affinity with Nike. But then the real mind-blowing conspiracy moment for me was Penn State's president, Dr. Neely Beneputi. She came from Louisville, and Louisville has a deal with Adidas. So Not only is there not an affinity with Nike, but she sort of has some affinity potentially with Adidas already. So I'm not saying that's going to be the end-all decision because of that specifically, but it doesn't help. It doesn't hurt. And so anyway, that's what we've heard. I like Nike stuff, just to be completely honest. I think Nike was there for Penn State when not a lot of folks necessarily were, right around the 90s. I think there's some funny things on X about the 94 season, still had champion stuff, and still had their uniforms weren't even consistent. It was a hodgepodge of different stuff on that. Not even the font was the same, which I think is hysterical and how far we've come. But also Joe Paterno and Mr. Knight had a good relationship as well. And so I think that has, that means a lot to some people. But like you said, Sean, It's a lot of money, and I would love if Nike would respond, but I think, balls in your court, so to speak. So I'll
Yeah.
just say this. One thing is, like, Franklin was asked about it today. Said he's aware of it, but his focus is on FIU, which I think someone literally said, like, do you care about that? And it kind of just set him up to basically say, I don't care about that right now. And honestly, as much as we are going to include this on the episode, we left it to the end for the exact same reason. It's football. I like talking about football things during football season. This wouldn't even take effect until 2026, and we'll have plenty more time to talk about it. More, I'm sure, to come in the coming days and weeks. South Carolina already announced theirs. They did like a little promo for theirs. I think theirs starts July 2026. I wouldn't be surprised if that is a similar timeline for when Penn State's contract would theoretically start, but I wouldn't be surprised if they would announce it much sooner. So more to come there.
Do you think Franklin actually cares about it?
I don't think so. I think he cares about the potential of getting an extra $30 million to play with.
Yeah, me too.
But Sean, you got any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Yeah, just about Nike. I mean, I love Nike stuff. I'm wearing a Nike Penn State shirt right now. Not intentionally either, but I just think they make really, really good stuff. Landon Tangwall actually talked about how he went to an Adidas school in high school, and he went to a Nike school at Penn State, and he said it was really night and day. Nike stuff is just pretty superior, especially their athletic wear, like their shoes and everything. So from that perspective, I would, in an ideal world, I would love to see Nike match. But if they don't, or they don't even come close, then I think you got to go to Adidas. I think your hand kind of gets forced there. Like I said, we would be the biggest brand there, at least right now. And I think that and you can't really. It's hard to say no to that money in today's day and age. I think we missed out on too many high-profile recruits this year to just think that we could just continue to just get by with Nike, because that's we're always thinking about NIL opportunities and how, well, we're never going to be Texas, we're never going to be USC, we're never going to be Ohio State and NIL. A large part that's true, but we got to be in the same zip code with these teams, or we're going to be finishing 15th or 16th in recruiting every year, and that's just not. That's not going to keep us where we're at right now. That's not going to keep us where we're at right now. So that's just the reality of the situation. And if one of the things that could get us more money is we just have a different patch on our jerseys, I think it's worth it.
And I think a lot of people after the sticker shock would agree with you. But like everything else, it takes a little bit to get used to. Thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight and for listening to the episode. We will be back next week to break down Penn State's potential win over FIU and get ready for the always difficult Villanova. Until then, please, again, make sure you're subscribed wherever you're listening or watching. And again, if you drop us a 5-star review, we'll read it on the show. And maybe if you need help with the pick'em, maybe a guy can help somebody out. That's Sean Kane. I'm Corey Listoki. You have been listening and watching Hardcore Penn State Football. Till next time, see you guys.